So this is going to be a little bit of a long and an interesting post, but I need you guys to just follow along with me if you've got the time, right? Chop it up with me for a quick little minute, right? So if you've been following me for a minute, you know that like I'm a beast when it comes to information retention, data analysis, pattern recognition, critical thinking overall. So more often than not, when I'm posting on my social media, and I do a wide variety of topics, politics, relationships, marriage, divorce, finance, propaganda, international, economy, etc., right? Where I'm doing the social experiment is I am collecting data and I'm analyzing it from how you guys interact with these posts. It's not for the sake of monetization. It's for the sake of entertainment. This is what I like to dissect in my spare time. And I'm probably going to end up publishing a very long-winded fucking book about it, because the shit that I have realized from social media, you know, it lifts the curtain on human psychology, more specifically to the United States. And it's honestly, it's fucking crazy. But why am I saying this, right? I had made a post a few days ago talking about the qualms I have as a woman dating in the United States of America, right? This is kind of important, right? Anytime I make a post talking about dating, I always preface it with the fact that when I talk about dating publicly, men self-destruct in the fucking comments, okay? And the point of the post is that the propaganda associated with men and women in the United States is counterproductive, right? Women are propagated to believe that if they want to get a better quality of man, they have to be a better quality of woman. From the time we are born, we are raised to be submissive, nurturing, and to get and compete for men. Like, that is our purpose. Whereas men in the United States just don't have that level of pressure and propaganda. As a matter of fact, they're propagandized, I think that's a word, to the contrary. Like a key that opens many doors is a master key. You know, like the more promiscuous they are, the more masculine they are. There's just a lot of toxic masculinity when it comes to male propaganda in the United States. And this has significantly deteriorated the quality of the American home, our children, but more importantly, overall dating, right? I've worked my entire life to become the best version of myself, hoping that I could obtain the best quality of man. And in turn, I just ended up attracting a better quality of liar, right? And in going through all of this, I was talking about the ways that I worked really hard to become a better woman: financial independence, being debt-free, pulling my family out of poverty, the physical aesthetics, working on my appearance, my teeth, my body, going to the gym, being healthy. I don't sleep around. I don't date around. I don't have lingering situations, and ultimately just working on emotional depth and health, like doing everything I can to really just be like a good fucking human being, not just for the purpose of attracting a better man, but because it's a... Now, this is where it becomes important. You actually really have to listen. I have these difficult conversations for a fucking reason, okay? Not having these difficult conversations has proved a massive detriment to society. I have said this before on many a post, and I am going to say it again. I personally believe that the capitalistic fascist oligarch currently running rampant with their power, but has always been the puppet master for the United States of America, has intentionally propagated an attack to destroy the American nuclear family and create fictitious gender wars amongst men and women. And this is so they can double down on the slave force, as well as double up on overconsumption, okay? Where you used to have two people in one home for a married couple, you now have two people in two homes, paying two rent or mortgages, two car payments, two car insurance, two light bills, two different household goods. If there's a child involved, that one child now has two different bedrooms, two household goods, two yada, 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 so on, so forth, right? You also double up on the slave force, more people working. Women aren't staying home to take care of children anymore, okay? And there's further detriment to the society that nobody's talking about. When you don't have two parents in a home physically watching over a child at all time, that child is at risk. That's why the United States on average has 460,000 children go missing a year. The country that comes closest to us is Russia with 100,000, and they are bigger than us with a larger population, right? No other country has those numbers. We're also the largest creator and consumer of child pornography, okay? We have the most sex traffic rings in the United States of America. We literally have news anchors and podcasters attempting to normalize or politicize pedophilia. I've never heard an underage man, but you hear rhetoric about an underage woman, or a pedophile isn't a pedophile because, well, they're not raping 5-year-olds. Women in the United States of America now obtain more PhDs than men do. Women in the United States of America are responsible for majority of first-time home owning purchases, okay? Women in the United States of America are actively going out of their way to die alone, to not date men, to skip even dating, and just get cats. Birth rates are at an all-time low, and single middle-aged women in the United States of America are reported to be the happiest demographic in the United States of America. And you have to attribute this to the fact that for centuries, women weren't even considered equal, or even human for that matter, right? They didn't have rights. So when you have rights and you can get educations and buy homes and work, you really take it and you run with it. Right? That's just what it is, okay? It's no shade to men, but a lot of women feel relieved to no longer have the burden of a man in the home, or all the catch-22s associated with getting and keeping a man. Now, when I talk about this massive gap that's currently being created between men and women, when you look at what's happening with statistics when it comes to men, this is not a matter of personal opinion, and I have to stipulate that, because when you see the way men react in the comments to factual data and statistics, you will understand that I have to preface anything talking about men on the internet with the disclosure that this is not an opinion, this is fact, and then they still will attack me in the comments, which you'll see, right? But when you talk about the massive gap that is widening between men and women, men in the United States of America have the highest suicide rate. Single middle-aged men in the United States of America are committing suicide at an unprecedented rate. They also make up upwards of 90% of all mass and school shooters. All domestic terrorism is typically created by single middle-aged men. And when you're looking at suicide notes, or for that matter, manifestos left by these mass shooters, they're referencing being an incel, an involuntarily celibate man who can't get a woman. There is a male loneliness epidemic. It's to the point where we've coined a term called passport bros, where men are literally leaving the United States of America trying to find love and calling mail order brides true love. You know, you're just trying to find another woman to be an indentured servant because American women now have rights that you can't take away to trap them into a marriage. And a real unfortunate reality is that the male loneliness epidemic does not just extend to single, middle-aged, non-married, childless men. It's also divorcees. Majority of divorces are initiated by women, and it's not for infidelity or financial issues. It's irreconcilable differences. Ask a fucking divorce attorney. They'll tell you that majority of women are leaving their marriages because they are single mothers while being married women. Men and women now both work the same amount outside of the home. But men will pay bills, come home and do nothing, and women will pay bills and come home and to do everything. And the imbalance in the home is what's creating the irreconcilable differences and why majority of divorces are filed in the United States of America. So encompassing all of these detrimental consequences society is having because the American nuclear home is under attack and men and women are in a fictitious gender war, I think that it's a really important conversation to be had. And I think the disconnect is coming in the emotional evolution of men. I think that men are not propagated to be better human beings, to bridge the gap between men and women. A lot of the propaganda that men buy into, that they intentionally and voluntarily subscribe to, literally on YouTube channels, on social media, is this toxic masculine alpha male bullshit. If I've got muscles and money, women should want me and they should submit to me, but I'm going to pick a 19-year-old woman with no body count because she's easy for me to train. You know, like it's the Andrew Tates, it's the Fresh and Fits. There are a reason why these American male alpha male podcasters do millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of views and make millions of dollars, because men in the United States of America overall from a very young age are propagated into toxic masculinity. And when it backfires in fucking reality, rather than bridging the gap, working on themselves, looking in, looking outward, or just flat out asking women, what is it do you want? They subscribe to or create propaganda telling women what it is they should want. And that is literally what you guys confirmed in my fucking comments. I say that because contrary to how much I talked about all of the work I put in overall, financially, mentally, emotionally, physically, just really working on myself to be a better human for a better man, men's only takeaway was, well, you're materialistic. You just want money, or well, it sounds like it'd be a competition with you, like you're too combative, or da-da-da-da. Women who have their own money can do whatever they want, and it's confirmation bias. You guys are an echo chamber. Exactly what I'm telling you is the problem, creating the disconnect between men and women. You are further affirming in the fucking comments. And at the end of the day, women are getting high levels of education and new homes and reported to be the happiest demographic in the United States, while you guys are shooting kids in school and fucking killing yourself, okay? So at the end of the day, men genuinely need to understand that if you are not going to deprogram yourself from the fascist capitalistic propaganda that has created a male loneliness epidemic, low birth rates, disappearing children, and mass fucking shootings, you are going to die alone and unhappy and miserable. And women have no threat. Women are not toiling and obsessing over the fact that they might die alone. They're reveling in the fact. They are fucking embracing it. They are building lives that have meaning without men and children. You guys are the ones who are losing here. And I don't say that like it's a fucking win. I don't. You think I like watching American men shoot our kids in school or fucking kill themselves because they can't get laid? You think I like them turning to supporting fascist fucking dictators because they think there's an inkling chance they might take away women's rights and they can legally own one again? I am watching American men fall down a disgustingly dark rabbit hole, all because you can't check. I watched that video back and I realized that a lot of men are going to feel attacked. And that's because discussing a problem without proposing a solution feels like an attack, right? For anybody in any topic. And what is the solution? Well, it's rather simple. You restore family values and you invest in education. And why do I say this? Because I talked about the reverse propaganda for men and women. For women, we're propagated to aspire to marriage, to be nurturing, to be kind, to be emotional creatures. We're propagated to work hard to keep a man, to be virtuous, to not sleep around, to be faithful, etc. Whereas men are propagated to believe that the sum total of their worth in society is how much they earn. That's all they're focused on. That's why they think their job is done just by going to work and paying bills. They're propagated into promiscuity. That's why they think sleeping around with a lot of women makes them more of a man as opposed to taking care of a home and protecting and providing for a family, right? Like, these are the realities. You have to restore family values and you have to take the propaganda away, more specifically from the youth. And the only way you combat propaganda is via education and enlightenment. We have to heavily fund our education system. And I'm not talking this basic United States standardized testing and multiple choice question shit. I'm talking about information retention, data analysis, critical thinking skills, pattern recognition, so that they can identify the problem without being told there is one, receive the information associated with it, and then further course correct. This is going to allow us to globally compete again after all the damage that's been done to our economy, and also in turn restore family values. We have to stop hypersexualizing the youth. We have to stop propagating toxic masculinity, and we have to stop telling women that their sole purpose in life is to get and keep a man, while we are simultaneously telling men that the more women they have, the better of a man they are. And this has to be addressed because and here's where I'm going to bring all of this full circle, right? The reality is that every human has an innate biological disposition to find a partner and make babies. Men and women alike have this overwhelming desire to love and to be loved, and furthermore to create from that love. You don't have to propagate anybody into this. It just is. There are still a lot of women in society who want to get married and have children, contrary to the fact that it's not a necessity for their survival anymore. You didn't have to propagate them into doing it. They just fucking want to. But at the end of the day, we live in a patriarchal society. That is a society that is created and controlled by men. And the men in this society have eliminated the middle class. So now you can't have a home without 2 incomes. Even if it's just you in that home, you still need 2 incomes. So this means that married women who have babies have to go to work. And after having your baby, you get 6 weeks unpaid time off. Then you're forced to go back into the workforce while still bleeding and squirting milk from your breast, leaving your infant child with a complete fucking stranger in a country where children get shot in school and the president is a fucking pedophile. And you've got news broadcasters and podcasters normalizing fucking pedophilia. Who would want to bring children into this society even if they wanted to have children? And it's not just the perils of society that are scaring women out of having children and getting married. It's the perils in the home. It's producing at the same financial rate as your counterpart, but being treated like a second-class citizen in the home. It's doing the same work outside of the home, but then coming home and doing all of the work in the home. We have to start propagating our men to family values, to virtue, to fidelity, to emotional depth. That is the solution, okay?